Hello, everybody, and welcome to another preview of the upcoming mini set that is launching just around the corner. With me, I have a player expert as always. This time it is Darkness. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ollie. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, my pleasure. We've been spoiling a few of these cards over the past couple of days. Can you tell me what are your thoughts about these cards so far?
I spoiled one card, and this card is Sneak Attack with a new mechanic. Well, I saw most of the cards yet, and all of the cards are interesting, like pushing a theme into another direction or adding something new. This is a small new pack, but it really adds something to cards.
Yep, I agree. I think these are some exciting cards that are coming in this expansion. I think there are some, even though there are no new keywords in this, I definitely think there are some things in there that are gonna shake up the meta and make some things possible that previously weren't possible. So let's just jump right on into it. I don't think there's any reason for us to wait any longer. We'll roll this and we'll get the first card up on our screen here, and it is the Doubting System. Counter an enemy order with cost 3 or more. A countermeasure, 2 credits.
Yeah, this card is very similar to Ultra, but Ultra is countering every enemy order and drawing a card, so Ultra is obviously a stronger card.
Mm,
But this card is unique itself, even compared to Ultra, because it says counter an enemy order with cost 3 or more.
mhm,
That means this card, if you're playing this and this is getting triggered, you are aiming to stop these high cost orders, and
mm,
they are very important. For example, Blitzkrieg or Enigma, Emperor of the Sun, Commonwealth, Carpet Bombing. All of these orders, or for example, US Seaborne Invasion,
mm.
Mobilization, they are very, very powerful. And it does hurt if you lose them. And you can't trigger this with a bloody sickle or an useless order.
Yeah, I think that's the
And
big thing.
it's you can't trigger this by playing an low cost useless order. And this is only 2 credits. Countering an order with cost 3 or more. Well, if you don't have to play this countermeasure multiple times, you're getting a credit advantage
Yep,
and tempo advantage out of that. I think this standard card is incredibly powerful.
I agree, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It basically has a built-in advantage. It costs 2, and if you trigger it, you're going to be blocking something that at least costs 3 or more. I think we're going to see a lot of interesting situations where people maybe try and play around an ultra or some sort of countermeasure, but don't necessarily trigger the doubting system and then run into it face first. And it's probably going to be painful the first few times. So for everyone out there, make sure to take a look at the remaining credits when you're facing British players after the patch to see if there's a doubting system in play. But let's take a move on into the next card here, and that is none other than Spitfire MK2, Spitfire Mark II, has +2 attack if guarded, and I believe this is the cheapest Spitfire we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's another Spitfire, so maybe Spitfire decks are becoming more viable now. But this mechanic is interesting. We already saw a unit with the effect has +3 attack if guarded, but this was an infantry. And this is a fighter, meaning you don't have to move to the front line to be able to attack the opponent's headquarter. And the Britons suddenly got much more aggressive, even
Hmm.
with their control and their guards, because you can just place that Spitfire next to an Eastern regiment having a 5/5 body turn 4, able to start attacking into the headquarter. What looks pretty dangerous to me.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you get out a RAF ground crew or something, that's going to drop the cost of this down to 2, and it's going to give it a +1/+1 when you deploy it. So, you know, I feel like this kind of Spitfire theme deck is coming to life a little bit with this one. I think you might have, almost enough Spitfires in the game to make that work as an archetype moving forward with the addition of the Mark II in the game.
Yeah, and the credit costs are very, very important here because the usual Spitfire deck didn't have a good early game, but now with East Regiment and this Spitfire MK2, it fills the gap
Yeah,
between turn 3 and turn 5 till you are able to play your Spitfires and your
exactly.
stuff.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's see what more is around the corner here. Spitfire Mark II doubting system. What else is there? Yes, this is one of my favorites. It is another commando. And of course, I am a huge fan of the commandos. This is not going to be my favorite commando, but I still like seeing more commandos. So this is a 3 cost, 1 op cost, number 3 commando. Units with 5 or more attack cannot attack.
I really like this card. Not only because the artwork, well, this artwork is great in my opinion, but the effect is pretty unique. Like other effects in this expansion, units with with 5 or more attack cannot attack. This is not only against the opponent, but for your own units too. For example, your Grenadier Guards playing Brit cannot attack. Your Lancaster MK cannot attack anymore. What makes this card pretty interesting? Like, if to make this card use, you don't want to have a lot of high attack units in your deck. And talking about that, commando decks comes to my mind. Well, the card says commando.
Yep.
So this deck should be pretty good in a commando deck, maybe with honeys, commandos, some HP buffs and orders to stop opponents' buffed units, for example, with counteroffensive or
Mm,
B-17 bombers. All of these, or German tanks, Penta A, Penta G, they are unable to attack as long as this unit lives.
yeah.
And this allows this commando deck to build up the support line, to cycle through the orders. This can be dangerous, but it's only a 3 credit unit with 3/3. I don't think it's that overpowered, and
Mhm.
there are plenty of options to remove this. But still,
Yeah.
very interesting card.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun, right? It might be something that saves your ass if you get like a Tiger IE or something played out against you when you're playing Commando deck. That's kind of the big counter that I'm running into now is like you get to the point where you've built up your board and all that kind of stuff, and you've pinned everything, and then there's this big Tiger IE body that gets slammed on the ground, and you can't do anything about it. So really interesting to see the addition of this card. Um, we have one more British card coming, and I believe this is going to be the elite card. Indeed, it is the Long Range Desert Group. Your units get when this unit deals damage to a unit, destroy it. This is a huge one, and especially for the commandos because this does work on the commando procs. But I'm not 100% sold on this being like super OP because it costs 5 credits and it's already kind of difficult to get your commandos to stick on the board with all the removal that's going on in a lot of these decks. So having to spend 5 credits or an entire turn to put this effect on the units, I don't know if it's going to be worth it all the time.
Well, maybe not all the time, but it's pretty dangerous making your commandos like instantly killing everything. If you're able to set this up, they are able to destroy a whole army, like 5 German tanks with
Hmm.
heavy armor and not targetable to enemy orders. They are gone in no time. So this can be overpowered if there are no answers to this or not enough removal. Well, commandos can be fun or terrible. depends on the point of view. But another deck idea comes to my mind, and this is an unit-based deck,
Yeah.
like a lot of infantry units, a lot of
Just
guard
health
units,
buffs.
a lot of health
Yep.
buffs. If you are able to play in British deck and deploy just a bunch of units, it's very hard to kill these because they have the best stats in the game,
Mm.
usually. If all of these
Ooh.
suddenly have destruction effect, how do you deal with that?
And I mean, you got the East Surreys, and you could even run something like Brit Soviet, and there you have the 1/8 guards, the 1/5 guards, the 2/6 guards. They're all relatively cheap bodies that you can kind of flood the field with, and they're all relatively difficult to get rid of. And I agree with you. I think that's probably going to be the more dangerous deck to come out of this in terms of like performing consistently, at least. But
Well,
yeah,
there are more decks, air decks with bombers,
yep.
destruction bombers, destruction artillery. There are a lot of combo potential, and I'm a little worried about this card. Let's see what the meta will do with that.
All right, we're over into Germany, and it is the 5th Panzer Grenadier. This one is a 2/2/2/1, 2 cost, 1 operation cost, 2 health, 2 attack, and it gives Fury with a pincer. That is insane. I think this card is probably like, this is the sleeper card in this entire expansion because that is insane.
The first Pincer Fury effect, I rated for this Pincer Fury as soon as you announce the Pincer effect, the keyword. I do think this is very, very powerful. Well, this can be strong in the early game to be able to trade more effective, maybe in a German, German aggro deck with 0 operation cost units.
Mhm.
But even in mid-game decks or control decks, if you're able to attack twice with your Tiger IE or other huge German tanks, or any
Just in
any
general
any
with
units,
anything, yeah,
yeah,
like just the fact that you can, let's say there's 2 opponents on board and they both have 2 attack, you have 3 HP. The fact that I can pincer it, fury it, and trade both of them and get a 2 for 1, that's already like worth it for me to play this card into that situation. So I mean, I'm looking at the body there, it's 2/2, so it's not really huge, but it's an infantry, so it's a little bit slow moving. But Germany already has a lot of ways to get up into the front line and get into your face, and this is definitely something that could become dangerous really quickly. Can you imagine like a Panzer 35T turn 2 being dropped with an infantry unit in the front line? Maybe you like have a Befeswagen there as well, and all of a sudden you got like a 35T 16th Regiment and a Befeswagen in the front line, and one of them has pincer on like turn 3, right? That's gonna be insanely powerful.
yeah. There are a lot of possible combinations for this card, and this is definitely a buff to aggro.
Another buff to aggro is
Yeah,
definitely going to be this one. It's rally, and your units get +1 attack this turn and remove pin on them. So a little bit of a sadness in my heart here. My commando pin decks with all the Monties and the Shellings are not going to be quite as effective, but yeah,
well,
overall.
plus one attack this turn is not that much for 2 credits, but you're drawing another card, so you're not losing your options, your hand capability. What is a good thing? And looking at the powerful British and Japan cards to pin everything,
Mm,
I think this card is really strong.
yeah.
Maybe not in pure aggro because it's not fast enough compared to for the Emperor or
Mm,
Blitzkrieg, but in the lower aggro or mid-range deck, for example, Alpine decks,
mm.
this card is very strong because you don't
Yep.
want to get your Alpine units pinned. You want to deploy them, to move them, and to attack.
It's a
And
great
this
point.
card will enable German mid-range decks.
I also think it's going to enable, more plays with Leopold. I feel like a lot of the times when Leopold gets played, it gets pinned and then it gets carpet bombed or something. It kind of gets dealt with around that. But now you can play the rally and you can get off 7 damage within a turn off of the Leopold. So I think this
Yeah,
could definitely. I mean, it
or
finds a home
or
in pretty
counter
much.
to or encounter to Sexton.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great point. Another card here for the Germans. It is a tank. It is the Panzer 3F. It has Blitz, cost 3 credits, 2 operation cost, 3 body, and your German tanks have Blitz. Your other tanks get +1/+1. An extremely strong card here, especially in these tank-heavy, aggressive German decks.
Yeah, recently tank-based German decks were dead on the ladder, so here is some love for this archetype. But this tank is insane. This is probably the strongest card in the expansion. For 3 credits and 3 body for recent tanks, this is strong. Like the recent Flam Panzer with 2 operation costs. Well, Flam Panzer got nerfed, maybe it's balanced now, but with this tank is not killing an 1 credit unit. This tank is giving all of your tanks +1/+1, no matter if they're in the front line or in the back line. And your German tanks getting Blitz. So this is probably not in turn 3 drop, but you want to wait till Greif, Adler Commando being killed previously, to maybe have 1 or 2 tanks available, makes operation cost to 0, drops this, and a huge amount of tanks are running into you.
There's also an interesting thing here. It's the fact that so your German tanks have Blitz, and then on deployment, your other tanks get +1/+1, right? So it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg, right? You kind of have to choose: am I going to deploy this first and get off, 3 tanks that now have Blitz, or am I going to play the 3 tanks and then I'm going to play this and give them the buff? So it's not just play it and get everything.
What does this mean? If this is on the board, well, but this should mean all of your German tanks should have Blitz, no matter when this card is played. As long as this is in the battlefield, your German tanks get Blitz. But what does mean the other tanks? Like non-German tanks?
Just all other tanks, yeah. No, just all other tanks. Other tanks other than the Panzer III. So I think this is going to be a really strong card, right? It's going to even buff cards and tanks from other nations, and I think that's going to be extremely powerful. And then we have another Focke-Wulf coming in here, the FW-190 Jagged Bomber. Return an enemy ground unit to owner's hand, 5 for body, 5 cost to deploy, and 2 cost to operate. I think the art is amazing. I am terrified of this card.
Yeah, this card is very strong. Definitely very, very strong. Well, for 5 credits, 5 to fighter with 2 operation costs is a decent body. Well, it's not amazing, but it's kind of average compared to other fighter, maybe slightly above. But the deployment effect is awesome. This is not an regular retreat mechanic like sending this 1 line back to the support line or
all
to
the
the
way
hand.
back to hand.
It's always back to the hand. Like Admiral Hipper, you're just using you're playing this card, getting a fighter, putting 1 enemy ground unit to the owner's hand. This doesn't appeal to fighter or bomber, but it's still good enough.
Absolutely. Moving on, what nation is going to be next? That was the last of our German cards. Coming up now, it's going to be the Soviets, and there we go. The first card, at all costs, destroy a friendly unit, deal 2 damage to all.
Don't know about that. 3 credits seems a lot to deal 2 damage with you killing 1 of your own units. To everyone. This is like a very expensive winter warfare.
Yes.
Well, sure, a lot of units will die to the 2 damage to everyone, so you can just sacrifice that. It would die for sure. But I don't know if this is useful currently because there are no good cards enabling an effective self-destroying or self-hurting deck. Well, maybe Mother of Russia comes
Okay, wait.
to
Are we
play.
are we talking about like a Soviet Japan like air deck now? Like when this plane dies, pin everything. You're doing
Well, this
maybe.
could work, but you're still missing something.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting one to see how this one is made to work at least. But this is kind of a theme that we're seeing a little bit with the Soviets is deal damage to everyone. And now we go over
Yeah.
to the T60, the limited card coming in the mini set. The T60, a 4-cost tank, 1 operation cost, 2 body with guard. And when it gets destroyed, you get a T34 1942 to your hand, which is a powerful tank.
Yeah, this is a 5/5 tank with bullets and 2 operation costs. So this card is definitely interesting and a value card, but probably better in budget decks
Mm.
or for beginner. You're getting just a lot of stats to work with. What makes this card amazing in draft.
Yeah.
But 4 credits for an 2/4 guard is not amazing. Well, this is a tank with 1 operation cost, what is pretty good. But again, the 4 credit deployment effect are not that amazing for the body, and you're only getting this tank by destruction, and this tank you're getting the T34 1942
Mhm.
is not good enough for constructed either in the high ranks.
Mhm.
So
I get you, but I agree with you. I think this is going to be a great card, especially in draft. It's going to be a great card for some of these earlier budget decks. This is going to be something that you can craft into really early on in your collection, and it's going to help you build those Soviet value decks where you're going to be amassing card advantage over time, right?
yeah,
So
yes.
I think this has a good home there, and I'm really excited to see it. I could also see this potentially being a good fit into some like counteroffensive decks, just because it is a tank with 1 operation cost that can kind of sit in the background in the backline and then kind of burst out with counteroffensive. It also gives you another tank that has blitz, which you could also buff with counteroffensive. So I think there are definitely kind of some ways to play around it, but like you said, maybe not something that slots into every high rank ladder deck at the moment. All right, but now it is the 71st Zidomir. I don't know how to pronounce that. Zidomir. I don't know, but it is a 5 credit infantry, 1 operation cost, 3/5 is the stat line on the body. It has ambush, and your units with ambush deal double damage, and that's pretty sick.
Well, that's a very interesting card. Is this effect like unique or is this stacking? So if you do have 2, is this double double and Kagoshima deals 20 damage?
I don't know. I haven't tested that out. Something for people to discover, I guess, as
I
Catalyst
would
drops.
I would assume it's only double, so Kagoshima is only able to deal 10 damage, what is pretty powerful. Well, just looking at these stats, it's not amazing. 5 credits infantry for 3/5, comparing to Volksgrenadier.
Hmm.
3 credits, 3/6 infantry, 1 operation costs. It's definitely worse, but it has ambush, and because of its own effect, it's like an 6/5 unit with ambush. What makes this card pretty strong? Maybe we are going to see some ambush decks, but there's a lot of removal currently ongoing in the meta, so I think this is just another way to to speed up your ambush daily mission.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Well, we're going to be powering through the rest of the cards here. Going over into the Winter Offensive, deal 4 damage to all. The 8 cost order here, elite for the Soviets. A little bit of a mixed opinions on this one. Just, do you think it's going to be good or do you think it's going to be bad? I mean, 4 damage to everybody, that's quite a bit. That's also on your units and your HQ. So.
It's definitely a huge removal and maybe the worst elite ever.
All right, we'll leave it at that. We'll just keep going. Do you want to put a bet on how many people are going to kill themselves using Winter Offensive in the first week? Probably a lot.
I would love to hear these stats. I would love to hear that.
We are over into the United States of America here. That is the 4-credit order here. Sure bombardment. Choose one. Deal 3 damage to a unit or give a unit to +2/+3. So this is like a more expensive supply shipment with a built-in potential from the people.
Yeah, kind of. From the people, deal 3 damage to a unit for 3 credits. This is one cost increased. Definitely worse from the people, and worse supply shipment because it's just double the credit cost. Instead of 2, it's 4. But the unit doesn't have to be in the front line, and it's just a unit. You can buff artillery and bomber with that, or fighter, and that makes this card considerable. So maybe in these decks around bomber, around artillery, this can be a pretty powerful buff.
Actually, a great point. I mean, I think there is an artillery deck, a US German artillery deck that's out there that people haven't found yet, using the Hummels and the M3 howitzers and so on. I think I think there's definitely going to be an interesting deck that this could slot into there. But I'm also wondering, right, like it kind of makes sense with the US. The US is kind of the one that can get away with not having to worry about the credit cost too much because of the ramp. So this might actually not be, add that much of a trade-off. We go on over to the limited card here. It is the 60th Infantry Regiment, 4 cost infantry, 1 operation cost, 3/5 body. But when this unit is fully repaired, add a copy of it to your support line. And now we have kind of something that actually goes with fully repaired.
Yeah. We already had 1 infantry 3/3 and the effect fully repair an unit. Is this only appeals to this effect, or if is like other buffs, like we can do it if we can put
So
heals
no,
the unit?
it's like it's going to be the cadet nurse corps. It's going to be the infantry unit that fully heals or fully
Campaign
repairs.
trail.
Campaign trail. Yeah. It's basically going to be
These,
the orders that have fully repair a unit in the description.
so fully repaired is now a hidden keyword.
I would kind of, I guess so. I mean,
Well, you're able to fully repair a unit with we can do it, because we can do it first heals the unit and then adds HP.
yeah.
So just based on the description, this should work too, but I don't know. We need to test that.
It's going to be an interesting testing one because if it does indeed work that way where you can we can do 3 of these in the back line or something, but I mean they would all have to be damaged, I guess, first. So it's going to be an interesting one, but I think this is going to open up some pretty entertaining deck strategies, and we're going to see Cadet Nurse Corps a lot more, and Campaign Trail as well. We move on over into the special card here. It is the Allied Research Effort, a 1-cost order. Choose one at a random US or British unit or order with cost 7 or more to your hand. Now that's not a large pool that you're kind of drafting from there. What are these orders? It's what? It's like it's carpet bombings, it's Rule Britannias, it's Commonwealths.
Lend-Lease.
Yeah.
And high altitude bombing and seaborne invasion.
Yeah. And
I checked this and I read this card twice to understand. So you can choose between get an
unit or orders, right?
Unit or order. And the unit or order is random and British or US, but with cost 7 or more. So you're getting, I believe, 1 random order out of 6.
Yeah.
And they are pretty random, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because there could be card draw like Lend-Lease or Commonwealth. Well, maybe you can deal damage with Commonwealth too. AoE or removal with carpet bombing and high altitude bombing, and a very special effect with Rule Britannia. If you're playing US, this would be very useless.
Yeah.
Or seaborne invasion could be quite strong. So I don't really understand why you did this, but well, this is a lot of randomness.
Well, I guess
Um,
we will see. It's kind of
the units are more interesting. Most of them are just bomber, the most expensive bomber.
yeah, and like the Pershing. But here we
And
see another bomber that's going to be coming into that pool, and probably one of the ones that you might want to pull, and that's the B-17F, a 10 cost, 3 op cost bomber with Blitz, heavy armor 1, and cannot be targeted by enemy orders. The first airplane that has that keyword or has that ability.
yeah, this is a pretty interesting bomber. Well, a nice bomber, but expensive. I don't think this is overpowered. While having a not targetable bomber with heavy armor is pretty nice, but you need to control the board, or other
Yeah.
units will just run into this
Yeah.
and don't even have to trade. This is a danger. But this is another 10 cost US unit. First, there was only Pershing. Now, with your Factory or Red Banner, you're able to get this bomber or Pershing, and both are having Blitz.
That's actually sick to think about because that is a fairly easy combo to pull off. When you have the red banner plus a couple of Urals and you got the B-17s and you got the Avengers in there, we might be seeing a lot of the B-17F actually coming out of that combo instead of being run in the deck itself. I believe we are going next to Japan here. Yep, reorganize. Choose a card in hand and shuffle it into your deck. Draw a card.
First, I thought this card is amazing, but then I noticed you use this card to pick another card, shuffling the other card in your deck and drawing one. So for 1 credit, you're losing 1 card
For 0
from your
credits.
hand.
For 0 credits.
Yes, sorry. For 0 credits, you're losing 1 card from your hand. And I don't know about that. You need to have a lot of card draw. This would fit in fatigue decks and in kamikaze decks
Yep.
to cycle faster through your deck. I'm sure Scott will make something work with that card. But in another combo would be with these 554 mountain rifles. You don't want to play these. You want these to get to get removed.
Yeah.
So they are deployed on the battlefield. You could use this card to send these back in your deck.
That's a good point. You have a 34th Regiment out, and then you put it back into the deck, which means that you know that it's going to be discarded off the top of the deck, making that kind of Oh, that's an interesting combo. I hadn't thought about that one. Maybe that's why you're the player expert here, Darkness. All right. Then we got the Yamagata Regiment, a 2 cost infantry unit, 0 operation cost, 2/3 body. But then if you have no cards in hand, it has Ambush, Blitz, and Fury.
Well, I think that is a very, very strong card. Not only because on the effect, later more, but it's 2 credits and 0 operation cost.
Hmm.
And J Aggro really needs some of these cards with 0 operation costs, with decent stats like 2, 3. This is very, very strong. This ability, if you're able to trigger this, it's amazing. But to make this work, you need to empty your hand, and
Yep.
it's very rare that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So
It's more of like a hidden bonus, right? If you got 3 of them
yeah,
out and you feign retreat, all of a sudden you have a pretty powerful board, but maybe not something. I don't know. Cards players never cease to amaze me. You guys will figure out some way to make this absolutely broken. There is your card. It is Sneak Attack. This is an 8K order here from Japan. Destroy target unit. Remove copies of it from the owner's hand and deck. That's pretty brutal.
yes, but it's very expensive. I revealed that card and had a long conversation about this. Well, the effect is pretty interesting, and this can be situationally terrible and horrifying to the opponent. For example, you're playing against Booth with his commando deck. You're targeting one commandos, and all of his commandos are gone.
You need to have 8
but
credits to do it, though.
yeah, you need to have 8 credits. It's like in Blade of the Samurai with 2 increased costs, but it's killing all copies from the hand and from the deck, but not the copies on the battlefield. So if the opponent already used most of his copies and they are on the battlefield, it's nearly useless and a very, very high cost removal. So that's not that great in general, but against decks who are based on a very specific unit, like Honeys or Commandos or Sherman
Or Panther Ace.
or Panzer
Please,
Ace.
if I can use this to destroy the Panther A that gets played against me, and then discard the other one from hand so that I'm not like blocked from drawing for 3 turns, oh, that's gonna make me feel good. That's gonna make me
Or
feel good.
if your opponent plays Fog of War onto his own Panzer A,
Yes, exactly.
be gone.
Get out of here. No more Panther A's for you. Moving on, what is this? Yes, it is the Key 46 Dina 3. 3 credit, 1 operation cost fighter deployment. Draw 2 random 1 cost units from your deck.
I like this card. I don't think it's overpowered because if you if you look at Convoy, this is 2 card draw for 3 credits, and this card basically does the same thing. You're drawing 2 cards for 3 credits, but this is very expensive for J aggro compared to Rising Sun. This is only one. This is only 1 card, and on top of that, you're getting 1 fighter with 1 attack and 3 health with 1 operation cost, so no more 0 HP unit, what is not great, and the stats are similar to the British Swordfish. 1 credit unit as well. So actually, I don't think it's that strong.
I
But
think
sure,
it.
it is a good card,
Yeah.
but maybe not even worth it to be played in every J aggro.
I don't think it's definitely gonna. I definitely don't think it's gonna find a home in every J aggro. I think this could be something like, when we were talking about earlier with reorganize and that kind of stuff, being able to play around kind of this Japan Alpine deck. I think there's some ways to make it work, but it's gonna be an interesting one. It's definitely not something that you just slap into any deck and it's gonna be a better deck. So we're now over to France. Defend in depth. Deal damage to target unit equal to cards in the enemy hand. That's pretty huge.
That is huge indeed.
Target unit, right? So this means you can deal up to 9 damage to a unit, and I think this is gonna, greatly strengthen what France has, especially with like playing around phony war and kind of keeping your hand and the enemy's hand full up.
Yeah, phony war, resistance. You don't even need resistance. Most of the decks in cards want to have a lot of cards in their hand, and with an average of 5, 6, 7, this is still a lot.
To be honest, I think you can now, if you're playing France, you can take like 2 liberations, defend in depth, and then just go mobilize. Right? Like to be honest, I think you can do way more with France now with this, and it doesn't kind of hinge on resistance. All right, then we go over to the French unit here. It is the block MB152, a heavy armor 1 fighter, costs 3 credits to deploy, 2 credits to operate, 2/3 body, and your units do not lose mobilize when damaged. And this is why I was talking about the mobilize deck, right? Because you now have a little bit more control. You have really good card draw. You have a lot of removal with the defense in depth, and now your units can continue to mobilize even if they take damage.
Yeah, and this fighter looks pretty scary. Well, 3 credits, 2/3 heavy armor 1 looks like an average, like average stats for 3 credits. Not usual because of the heavy armor, but the effect is pretty interesting. Usually, mobilization is not a thing right now because there's not a lot of mobilization, and it's very easy to stop units
Mm,
from getting mobilized.
mm,
And the mobilized units are not that strong
mm.
from their stats because they rely on the mobilization effect.
Yeah.
But this fighter could enable some mobilization decks. Maybe not to be as good as other meta decks, but definitely stronger now.
We're seeing France get a better identity over time here, and that's great. But we're now over to Italy, and this is Mare Nostrum. Give a unit +1/+1, and damage dealt by this unit adds equal defense to your HQ. For 1 credit, I think that's pretty cool, and it fits really well within the theme of Italy. And I'm just looking at like the Fiat, the kind of 6/6 Fiat there early on. This could
Yeah.
really quickly become really powerful here with Italy as an ally.
To be honest, this card scares me because I think this enables a new archetype. Well, we do have some cards around this Fiat, this Machi, destroying itself when your HQ has lower HP than your opponent's one. But there is another buff, Spirit of Rome,
Yeah.
and you are able to buff your infantry unit based on the HP difference. And with this small card, you are able to make a big difference here.
It's going to be interesting. Maybe we'll see more Spirit of Rome horses, running around the battlefield. And the final card that we're going to be looking at here is La Decima. And this is, I love the art of this. This is like so clearly like a sniper. It's an 8 cost infantry unit, has ambush guard, 2/4 body, but it is also effectively a torpedo attack here, like destroy a target unit in the enemy support line on deployment. So I would say we're finally getting kind of a fairly strong on deploy Italian card here.
Yeah, this card looks strong indeed. Well, it's very expensive, so 8 credits is a lot. Human Torpedo, um, definitely good card. 5 credits, not being played a lot. On top of a 3 credit ambush guard unit. Um, just depends on the stats. It doesn't look amazing, but you only have to use 1 card to play a guard with ambush, like a 3 credit guard, and destroying a target unit in the enemy support line. And this is what makes this card very strong.
Yeah.
This is another addition to Italy control effects, like the last expansion we got line 4 day. Just 3 credits destroy a unit with 4 attack or more.
Mm.
And now another control effect with this destroy target unit in the enemy support line as deployment effect. Maybe some control decks with Italy
Yeah.
are able to be played now.
Well, only time will tell, Darkness. Thank you so much for joining me and reviewing these cards. Breakthrough Catalyst is going to be dropping on the 11th of March. We can't wait for you all to get your hands on it and see what you do about it and do with these cards. You can purchase the full set, both as a normal and a premium version. The cards can be crafted through wildcards and can be opened via breakthrough packs. So we hope all of you have an amazing time with these new cards, and we will see you on the battlefield.